Should you go back to college? The emphasis is on the you in this question because that's the most important part of the question. So my name is Keisha and I am here to share my experience with you in hopes that you'll have a better experience. So when changing careers, you might ask yourself, should I go back to college? And there are 4 additional questions that I would suggest that you ask yourself to determine whether college or no college is the right route for you. So jumping right into it, the number 1 question that you're going to ask yourself is, what does the job require? So looking at the new career path that you want to embark on, what's required for that type of role that you're looking for? So obviously, let's say you wanted to be a doctor and you've never gone to medical school. Obviously, you're going to be required to go back to college because you at least have to go to medical school, right? Let's say you want to be a lawyer. You have to go to law school. There are certain career paths where you can't get around going back to school if you haven't already completed that schoolwork in a classroom, right? But there are other ones where it may or may not be necessary. And so for those folks, for people looking at career paths such as those where school may or may not be necessary, this video is more for you, okay? When looking at what the job requires, what I would suggest is that you go onto LinkedIn, and if you're changing careers, LinkedIn is a good place to be. So if you don't already have a LinkedIn profile, I definitely would suggest you getting one. Now, I'm not saying you need to be a LinkedIn influencer or anything like that, but there's a lot of value in LinkedIn. And if it doesn't work for you, that's okay. But I would just say try it out if you haven't already. Okay, so what are the jobs requiring? As I started to say, what I would suggest is you hop onto LinkedIn and search the type of job that you would like to go into in the jobs feature on LinkedIn. Look at those job descriptions. What do they require? Are they saying that a degree is necessary? Is it a must-have? Is it a nice-to-have? Is it preferred? Is it required? Look at a bunch of those job descriptions within the type of work that you would like to do. Now, go ahead and take that a step further in searching the people feature for people who are already in the position that you would like to get into. Take a look at their educational backgrounds and see whether or not they went to school, what they went to school for. If you're super brave, reach out to some of those people and say, hey, what was your educational journey like? Are you using that education in your role? Do you believe it's necessary to have this sort of education to get into a similar role as yours? Things like that. The next question that I would ask you to ask yourself is, what environment do you learn best in? So it's likely that you will need to upskill. You will need to learn additional skills for whatever career path you're pivoting into. So whether or not you go back to college, a part of that decision making is, what environment do you learn best in? Do you learn best in a structured classroom environment? If you answer yes, then college might be best for you, or at least some sort of certificate program or something like that where you can go and you can sit in a classroom. That way you can be as successful as possible. Now, if you're a person who learns best solo dolo, just reading books, watching videos, and just consuming all that knowledge on your own time, then perhaps you don't need to go to school if your new career path is not requiring it. The third question that I would say to ask yourself is, how can you build a network? So for instance, if you were trying to be a business executive, a lot of times people get an MBA because of the network that comes along with getting that advanced degree. Now, if that's going to be helpful for you, that business school network, then it might make sense for you to go back to business school and get you an advanced business degree. Otherwise, if you can create your network by reaching out to people on LinkedIn, going to local meetups, going to different groups or being involved with different groups and organizations around the type of work that you would like to be in, then that's a great way to build a network as well. And you may not necessarily need to go back to school for that. Now, fourth question is, what can you afford? This is the fourth and last question. What can you afford? Okay, can you afford to go back to school? Or do you need to do what I did and find the most low cost, even free resources that you can find, whether online, in your community? So, for instance, some of the things that I did was I was learning to code, so I used a website called freecodecamp.org. And it's a really cool tool where you can jump in there, you can learn different types of coding languages for free in sort of an interactive online environment. But I also went to meetups for people who were learning to code, and people who, were already developers and just wanted to help people out. And that was very helpful. So those were neither one of those things that I have to pay anything for. Now, let's say that my learning style was best in a structured classroom environment. Then maybe it would have made sense for me to go to a boot camp or go back to college, or just take a few courses even if I wasn't getting a full degree. But for me, I was looking at the affordability of doing my own thing with online resources, and that worked for me. But again, the question is, should you go back to college, with you being the most important part of that question? So you want to consider yourself and what works for you. If that's possible. Again, if you're looking at a career path where you have no other choice but to go back to school, then that's one thing. But if you're deciding whether or not you should go back to school and you don't necessarily have to, consider these a few questions that I've posed here. And if you want to talk it out with someone else, answer those questions in the comments. And sometimes that sounding board can help you to figure that out. There are lots of resources out there. I encourage you to just use them, especially LinkedIn, especially meetups that are within in the realm of the career path that you'd like to go down. And if anyone is interested in learning email marketing or email development, drop me a note in the comments. I'm happy to nerd out with you in regards to email. I hope that was helpful. Thank you so much for listening.